The sun shone gently over the bustling city square, casting a golden glow on the cobblestone streets. The scent of fresh flowers blended with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee from nearby bakeries, creating a warm and inviting atmosphere. In the middle of this vibrant scene, a young woman carefully arranged a bouquet of white lilies. Her name was Emma, a talented florist, passionate about her craft. Her small flower stall, located right in front of the luxurious Vasconcellos hotel, was a little oasis of colors and fragrances that caught the eyes of curious passers-by and admirers. Emma firmly believed that every flower carried a message, an emotion woven into its petals and fragrance. To her, this wasn't just a job, it was a mission to spread beauty and feeling throughout the city. Every morning before the sun even rose, she would visit the flower market to handpick the freshest and most vibrant blooms. With skillful hands and a gentle smile, she arranged each bouquet with a special touch, delighting everyone who stopped by. But on this particular morning, something felt different, almost as if fate was about to play a trick on her. Across the square, Liam, Vasconcellos walked at a slow, deliberate pace, taking in the sights around him. As the heir to the hotel chain that bore his name, he had always been surrounded by luxury and sophistication. Yet, paradoxically, he felt more and more like an outsider in his own world. The endless formal meetings, multi-million-dollar deals, and carefully crafted appearances had never truly felt like his own. That day, he was escaping the relentless pressures of his father, searching for a brief moment of peace, far from the watchful eyes of high society. Then, his gaze landed on Emma, and something shifted. Unlike the women he was used to, she radiated a simplicity and lightness that felt entirely foreign to his world. Without even realizing it, his feet carried him toward her flower stall, where he stopped, watching as she worked. The way her fingers gently handled the petals, the focus in her eyes, the faint smile playing on her lips, it was mesmerizing. Emma sensed his presence before she even looked up. There was something magnetic about the man approaching, something that made her hold her breath for a brief second. When she finally lifted her gaze, she found herself staring into a pair of deep, dark brown eyes filled with curiosity. "Can I help you with something?" she asked, her voice soft yet welcoming. Liam hesitated. He wasn't exactly sure why he was standing there, but something inside him refused to walk away. He glanced around, searching for an excuse. "I just thought your flowers were beautiful." Emma tilted her head slightly, a small smile forming on her lips. "Thank you. Do you like flowers?" He let out a short, genuine chuckle. "To be honest, I've never really thought about it." Without a word, Emma picked up a white rose from the counter and handed it to him. "Here, take this. A gift." Liam took the flower, feeling the softness of the petals between his fingers. But before he could say anything, the sound of firm footsteps echoed through the square. "Liam? What are you doing here?" The air seemed to cool instantly. He knew that voice anywhere. His father, Augusto Vasconcellos, approached with his usual stern expression and the rigid posture of a businessman who tolerated no distractions. "I was just talking," Liam replied calmly. Augusto's sharp gaze flicked to Emma, barely acknowledging her, as if she were insignificant. "We have an important meeting. You need to come now." Liam sighed, tucking the white rose into the pocket of his blazer. Before stepping away, he looked at Emma one last time. "It was a pleasure meeting you." Emma simply nodded, watching him walk away with a strange feeling in her chest. Something told her this wouldn't be the last time their paths crossed. Want to know how this love story between two opposite worlds unfolds? Subscribe and leave a comment. What did you think of Liam and Emma's first encounter? I can't wait to hear your thoughts. That brief meeting had left a mark on them both, but fate was only beginning to weave the threads of their story. As Liam tried to ignore the unexpected pull he felt toward Emma, the weight of family expectations and duty dragged him back into his reality. But could he really ignore a feeling so genuine? Liam walked through the luxurious hallways of the Vasconcellos, hotel with heavy steps, as if each one was a reminder of the weight he carried on his shoulders. The encounter with Emma still echoed in his mind. The delicate way she handled the flowers, the genuine spark in her eyes when she handed him the white rose. It was a stark contrast to the suffocating environment around him. His father, Augusto Vasconcellos, walked ahead with firm strides, not bothering to look back. He entered the hotel's grand meeting room and gestured for Liam to take his seat at the table. The executives were already there, serious faces, calculating eyes. "Let's begin," Augusto said, his voice cold and direct. "Liam, you need to understand that our family has an image to uphold. Your presence in that square, chatting with a flower vendor, does not align with what is expected of you." Liam crossed his arms, holding his father's gaze. "And what exactly is expected of me? That you take responsibility, stop wasting time on distractions, and focus on the business." He had anticipated this conversation, but for the first time, his father's words unsettled him. Liam had always accepted his fate without question, but Emma had planted a seed of doubt. Was there another path? Across the street, Emma was finishing the last flower arrangements of the day. Her thoughts kept drifting back to the mysterious man who had appeared at her stall. There was something different about him, something beyond the expensive clothes and polished demeanor. He seemed lost. "What's on your mind?" asked her friend and co-worker Sophia, handing her a cup of hot tea. Emma sighed, taking the cup and wrapping her hands around it. "The man who was here earlier, Liam. He seemed so out of place, yet at the same time, interested." Sophia raised an eyebrow and smirked. "A special customer, huh?" Emma chuckled, but her heart beat a little faster as she remembered his gaze. He didn't buy anything, just talked. It felt like he was looking for something, or maybe running from something. Sophia took a sip of her tea and leaned in. "And what do you think he was looking for?" Emma glanced at the now empty square, feeling the cool night breeze against her skin. Maybe he doesn't even know. In the days that followed, Liam tried to stick to his routine, but something inside him was shifting. He found himself glancing out the office window at the square, picturing Emma at her stall, tending to her flowers with that same bright look in her eyes. His work at the hotel felt increasingly mechanical, while the image of the florist lingered in his mind, unexpected and persistent. One afternoon, after yet another exhausting meeting, Liam stepped into the elevator. Without even thinking, instead of returning to his office, he walked straight out of the hotel and toward the square. The noise of traffic and the voices around him seemed to fade as he approached the flower stall. When Emma saw him, her lips curled into a surprised smile. "You came back." "I told you your flowers were beautiful," he replied, running his fingers over the petals of a lavender bouquet. She watched him for a moment, then picked up another flower and handed it to him. Here, this time, a sunflower. It symbolizes light and positivity. Maybe that's something you need. Liam accepted the flower, and for the first time in a long while, he felt lighter. "Thank you," he said, holding her gaze. "Are you always here?" "Yes. Flowers are my life," Emma replied. "They bring joy, comfort, hope. And I think you could use a little bit of all three." Liam let out a soft chuckle, shaking his head. "You might be right." Before he could say anything else, a sleek, black car pulled up beside the square, and the tinted window lowered, revealing Augusto Vasconcellos. His expression left no room for doubt. He was not pleased. "Get in the car, Liam. Now." The moment shattered instantly. Emma tensed slightly, feeling the weight of the man's intimidating presence. Liam exhaled sharply, clenching his fists, but he had no real choice. He cast one last look at Emma before silently stepping into the car. As the vehicle pulled away, Emma stood there, holding the sunflower in her hands, a strange feeling settling over her. Something told her that this was only the beginning. The following days were strangely quiet for Emma. She continued her work with dedication, but her mind kept drifting back to that last encounter with Liam. The look he gave her before getting into the car was hard to forget. There was a mix of frustration and resignation, as if he were trapped by something greater than himself. As usual, Sophia noticed her friend's distant expression. "You've been lost in thought lately." She leaned on the counter of the flower stall, watching Emma arrange a bouquet of tulips. "Let me guess. Liam?" Emma sighed and let out a small, embarrassed laugh. "It's hard not to think about him. Our meeting was so unexpected. I don't know, Sophia. Something about him intrigues me." "Of course it does. A millionaire heir shows up out of nowhere, fascinated by your work. Sounds like something straight out of a romance novel." Emma shook her head, but a playful smile appeared on her lips. Before she could respond, a customer approached, and she busied herself assisting them. Deep down, however, she knew Sophia was right. There was something there, a connection that went beyond the words they had exchanged. At the Vasconcellos hotel, Liam stared at the city through the window of his office. He should have been focused on reports about the company's new branch, but his mind was elsewhere. The scent of flowers, the softness of Emma's touch when she handed him the sunflower, all of it still lingered in his memory. Augusto entered the room without warning, as he often did. "I hope you've put those distractions aside. We need you to stay focused, Liam." Liam took a deep breath before responding. "If by distractions you mean a casual conversation with an interesting person, then no, I haven't." Augusto narrowed his eyes. "You don't understand, do you? Our family has a reputation to uphold. You can't afford to get involved with someone who isn't part of our world." Liam turned to face him. "And what if I don't want to be part of that world?" The silence that followed was heavy. Augusto clenched his fists before exhaling sharply. "Don't be naive, Liam. You know what's at stake." Without waiting for a reply, he left the room, leaving Liam alone with his thoughts. That night, Liam's restlessness won. He needed to see Emma again. He needed a moment away from the invisible cage that surrounded him. He grabbed his car keys and drove to the square, hoping to find her before it was too late. When he arrived, the flower stall was still open. Emma was distracted, counting the cash in the register. When she saw him, her eyes lit up. "You came back. I needed to get out for a bit. I figured this would be a good place to clear my mind." She smiled, closing the register and picking up a rose. "Then I think you made the right choice." The two of them sat on a nearby bench, talking about simple things. Liam felt lighter than he ever did in any business meeting. Emma spoke about her childhood, about how she had inherited her love for flowers from her mother. At one point, he noticed something curious. "You never ask about my life. You never ask about the hotel, my family." Emma laughed softly. "I think you already have too many people talking about that. I'd rather know the Liam who comes here because he wants to, not because he has to keep up appearances." He fell silent for a moment, absorbing her words. That was what drew him to her. Emma saw him for who he was, not as the heir to the Vasconcellos fortune. Before he knew it, it was late. The clock in the square was nearing midnight. Liam stood up, reluctant. "I have to go, but can I come back tomorrow?" Emma didn't hesitate. "I'll be here." As he walked away, he felt something he hadn't felt in years: freedom. In the following days, their meetings became frequent. Liam would show up at the flower stall whenever he could, and each time he stayed a little longer. Their bond grew stronger, even if they didn't put it into words. But reality was about to catch up with them. One cloudy afternoon, as Emma arranged new bouquets, a well-dressed woman approached. She didn't seem interested in the flowers. "You're Emma, correct?" Emma looked up and nodded. "Yes, that's me. How can I help you?" The woman gave her a calculated smile. "I'm Patricia Vasconcellos, Liam's mother." Emma's heart raced, but she remained composed. "It's a pleasure to meet you." Patricia glanced at the stall with a hint of disdain, before continuing. "I know you've been spending time with my son. You need to understand that he has a future already laid out for him, and that future does not include you." Emma felt a tightness in her chest, but she didn't let it show. "Liam is a grown man. I believe he can decide for himself." Patricia smiled coolly. "You're young and intelligent, so you must know that certain decisions aren't his to make. Our family cannot afford to be involved with just anyone. I hope you understand that." Without waiting for a response, Patricia walked away, leaving Emma alone with a whirlwind of emotions. The conversation with Patricia affected Emma more than she wanted to admit. Meanwhile, Liam was beginning to realize that his time with Emma was becoming a real threat to his family's expectations. Emma stood still for a few moments after Patricia Vasconcellos left. The woman's words echoed in her mind like an unsettling warning. She knew the difference between her world and Liam's was vast, but hearing it directly from his mother made her realize that the gap was even wider than she had imagined. She tried to focus on her work, but her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted a bouquet of daisies. Sophia noticed her unease and stepped closer. "What happened? You look pale." Emma took a deep breath and told her about Patricia's visit. "She basically told me I'm not good enough for her son." Emma let out a humorless laugh. "As if I didn't already know that." Sophia crossed her arms, indignant. "And what do you plan to do?" "What can I do?" "She's right, Sophia. Liam belongs to a world that isn't mine." Sophia took Emma's hands and looked deep into her eyes. "Liam doesn't seem like the kind of man who lets his mother decide his life for him. Before you make any decisions, talk to him." Emma knew her friend was right, but part of her feared what she might hear. That night, Liam showed up at the flower stall as usual, but he immediately noticed something different about Emma. Her smile was subdued, her expression distant. "Is everything okay?" he asked, concerned. Emma hesitated before answering. "Your mother was here today." Liam tensed. "What? What did she say?" "She said your future is already set, and that future doesn't include me." Emma looked at him, searching for any sign of denial in his face. Liam ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "I should have known she'd do something like this. I'm sorry, Emma. You don't deserve this." "It's not your fault," she said softly. "But maybe it's best if we stop here." Liam grabbed her hands, desperate. "No, Emma, you can't let her decide for us." Emma felt a lump form in her throat. How she wished she could believe everything would work out. But Patricia's words were still there, weighing on her conscience. "Liam, it's not just about her. Have you really thought about what you want? Are you willing to go against your family for me?" He didn't hesitate. "Yes." Emma searched his eyes for sincerity and found it. But even so, her doubts didn't disappear. "I need to think, Liam." He nodded, though reluctantly. "All right. But please, don't give up on us unless you're absolutely sure that's what you want." She simply nodded, unsure if she could ever be certain. The following days were filled with uncertainty for Emma. She tried to convince herself that walking away was the best option, but the thought alone made her heart ache. Sophia insisted that she should fight for this love, but Emma feared she would end up ruining Liam's life. Across the city, Liam was facing his own dilemma. A confrontation with his mother was inevitable. "Do you think you can just throw everything We built a way for a florist, Patricia said, furious. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm just trying to live my life without every decision being controlled. Augusto, who had remained silent until then, finally spoke. So you're willing to give up your inheritance to live out a fairy tale? Because that's exactly what will happen if you keep pushing this. Liam felt the weight of his father's words. He knew his family had enough power to push him out of the business if he chose a different path. But was he willing to lose everything for Emma? That night, he left home with no destination in mind. He drove aimlessly until he realized instinctively that he had stopped in front of Emma's flower stall. She was still there, arranging the last flowers of the day. When she saw him, her heart pounded. Liam, he stepped closer, holding her hands firmly. I talked to my parents. If I stay with you, I'll have to give up everything they built for me. But none of that matters if I can't be with you. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I don't want to be the reason you lose everything. You're not the reason. I am. I choose you, Emma. She felt warmth spread through her chest, but fear still lingered. And what if we regret it? Liam smiled, gently wiping away a tear that rolled down her cheek. There's only one way to find out. But I do know that if we give up now, we'll regret it forever. Emma closed her eyes for a moment, and when she opened them, the uncertainty was gone. She cupped his face in her hands and kissed him softly, saying in silence everything she felt. It was a kiss filled with promises, with challenges, with true love. As they pulled away, she whispered, "Then let's find out together." Liam and Emma's decision to be together marked a new beginning, but the consequences of their choice were still to come. Would their love be strong enough to withstand the challenges ahead? The following days were a whirlwind of intense emotions for Emma and Liam. After deciding to be together, they both knew they would have to face the consequences of that choice. The weight of their decision was beginning to manifest in unexpected ways. At the flower stall, Emma tried to maintain her routine, but the way people looked at her had changed. Many of her regular customers now stared at her with curiosity, some with admiration, others with judgment. It was clear that news of her relationship with Liam had spread. Looks like you've become a celebrity, Sophia joked, though her tone carried a hint of concern. Emma sighed as she adjusted an arrangement of white roses. That's not what I wanted. I just wanted things to be normal. Unfortunately, normalcy is not something you're going to have from now on. Sophia crossed her arms. Have you seen the headlines? Emma's eyes widened. Headlines? Sophia pulled out her phone and showed her a recent article. Heir to the Vasconcellos empire involved with a florist. The article was accompanied by a photo of Liam standing in front of the flower stall. My God! Emma brought a hand to her mouth. How did they find out? Money buys everything, my friend, including information. A chill ran down Emma's spine. She knew that getting involved with someone like Liam would bring challenges, but she hadn't imagined her life would become a public spectacle. Meanwhile, Liam was facing a storm at the hotel. Ever since he had decided to go public with his relationship, his family and the shareholders had been in an uproar. The impact of the public exposure was affecting the company's image, and his father wasn't about to let it go unnoticed. Augusto Vasconcellos called for an emergency meeting. In the large conference room, Liam sat at the table, surrounded by executives, all of them staring at him with disapproving looks. Liam, do you have any idea of the damage you're causing? Augusto began, his piercing gaze fixed on him. If by damage you mean my decision to be with someone I love, then yes, I do, Liam replied firmly. Love? Augusto laughed sarcastically. This is nothing more than a whim, a reckless distraction. Liam clenched his fists. Funny how anything that's not in your plans is always dismissed as a whim. Patricia, who had been sitting next to her husband, sighed deeply. Son, you need to understand that our lives aren't like romantic stories. There are expectations, responsibilities. I know that, Mom. But I'm tired of living according to everyone else's expectations. For the first time, I want to make a decision for myself. Augusto slammed his hand on the table, impatient. If you continue with this ridiculous idea, not only will you lose your place in the company, but you will also suffer the consequences of that choice. We are prepared to remove your name from the succession if you insist on this. Silence filled the room. Liam felt the weight of his father's words, but surprisingly, he didn't feel afraid. He felt free. Then do what you think is best, he said, standing up. But don't expect me to give up what truly matters just to please you. And with that, he walked out of the room without looking back. Emma sat on a park bench, staring at her phone screen, rereading the news articles. Messages and comments on social media were piling up. Some people supported her, but many criticized her, accusing her of taking advantage of Liam. She felt powerless. She didn't want fame or attention. She just wanted to live her story with him in peace. She heard footsteps approaching and looked up. Liam was there, exhausted, but with a soft smile on his lips. I need to tell you something, he said, sitting beside her. Emma took his hands. What is it? My father gave me an ultimatum. Either I choose the company, or I choose you. She held her breath. And what did you say? Liam intertwined his fingers with hers. That my choice was already made. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Liam, I don't want you to regret this. I know how much this company means to you. He smiled, wiping a tear from her cheek. It used to. But now I know I can build something of my own, away from my family's shadow. I want to start a new life, and I want it to be with you. Emma felt her heart overflow with emotion. But before she could respond, a man dressed in black appeared beside them. Excuse me, Mr. Liam. They turned and the man handed him an envelope. This was sent from the Vasconcellos law office. Liam took the envelope and opened it. Inside were legal documents. He read through them quickly and frowned. What does it say? Emma asked, worried. Liam closed his eyes for a moment and sighed. They are officially disinheriting me. My name will be removed from all family assets. Emma felt a tightness in her chest. She knew this could happen, but seeing it actually unfold was a shock. And now? Her voice came out as a whisper. Liam looked at her and smiled. Now we start from scratch, together. She smiled back, holding his hands tightly. No matter what lay ahead, they would face it together. Liam and Emma were finally free to live their love, but starting from nothing wouldn't be as simple as it seemed. Their world was about to change in unexpected ways. The first days after, Liam's decision were marked by a strange feeling of freedom and uncertainty. He was no longer a Vasconcellos on paper, and his life of privilege had been stripped away all at once. But contrary to what his father expected, he felt no regret. He felt alive. Emma tried to be strong for him, but she knew things wouldn't be easy. Starting from scratch would take more than love and good intentions. The future seemed uncertain, and more than ever, they would have to fight to stay strong by each other's. That night, sitting in the small apartment Liam had rented with his savings, Emma watched him as he stared out the window. His gaze was distant, lost in thought. What are you thinking about? She asked softly. He took a moment to respond. About how I've always lived without truly living. Everything was decided for me. Everything was already planned. And now, for the first time, I have to create my own path. Emma took his hand and squeezed it gently. You're not alone in this. Liam gave a small smile, but something in his eyes still carried worry. I know, but I want to be able to give you something better. I don't want you to regret choosing this life with me. Emma moved closer and cupped his face in her hands. I chose you, Liam. Not your money, not your inheritance. And if we have to start from scratch, then we'll do it together. He closed his eyes for a moment, absorbing her words like a balm to his restless soul. But the storm surrounding them was far from over. The next morning, Emma arrived at the flower stand and found the structure destroyed. The canopy was torn. Flowers were scattered on the ground, vases shattered everywhere. Her heart pounded. Sophia arrived shortly after and gasped, "My God, Emma! What happened here?" Emma knelt in the middle of the wreckage, feeling despair grow inside her. Who could have done this? Her phone vibrated in her apron pocket. When she picked it up, she saw an anonymous message. "This is just the beginning. Walk away before it's too late." Her body turned cold. Her heart raced. "Emma?" Sophia knelt beside her. "What is it?" Emma showed her the message, and Sophia cursed under her breath. "This is a threat. You need to tell Liam." But Emma hesitated. Liam had already lost everything to be with her. And now, if he found out they were being threatened, he might try to protect her and end up making things worse. "I don't know, Sophia." "Emma, you can't ignore this. This wasn't an accident. Someone wants to scare you." Emma knew her friend was right, but she didn't want Liam to carry yet another burden. So she took a deep breath and forced herself to stand. "I'm going to rebuild the flower stand. I won't let them take this from me too." But deep down, fear pulsed in her chest. Liam found out about the incident the moment he saw Emma that night. She tried to hide it, but her swollen, tear-streaked eyes left no room for lies. "Emma, why didn't you tell me?" He held her hands, feeling anger rise inside him. "I didn't want to worry you," she answered, looking away. "You've already lost so much because of me. I didn't want you to lose your peace too." Liam ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. "My peace is you, Emma. Do you think I can just stand by and accept this? I won't let them hurt you." "And what can we do?" She looked at him, eyes filled with concern. "Fight who? We don't even know who's behind this." Liam felt his blood boil. Deep down, he had a suspicion. His father might have disowned him, but that didn't mean he would stop there. "I'm going to find out," he promised. "And when I do, I'll make sure this stops." Emma squeezed his hands. "Just promise me you won't do anything reckless. You don't have to prove anything to anyone." He nodded, but something inside him told him this battle was just beginning. The next morning, Liam decided to confront Augusto Vasconcellos. As he stepped into the family mansion, the butler hesitated before letting him in. But Liam knew that, sooner or later, his father would agree to see him. Augusto appeared minutes later, wearing the same impassive expression as always. "What do you want? Have you come to beg for forgiveness?" His voice dripped with sarcasm. Liam let out a short, humorless laugh. "Forgiveness? Do you really think I would come crawling back after everything? Then why are you here?" Liam stepped closer, keeping his gaze firm. The flower stand was destroyed. Emma received a threat. "Don't think I don't know who might be behind this." Augusto raised an eyebrow. "Are you accusing me of something?" "Liam, watch your words." "I know you, Father. I know what you're capable of." Augusto let out an impatient sigh. "You made your decision. Now deal with the consequences. But if you think I would waste my time trying to destroy that girl's insignificant life, you're mistaken." Liam clenched his fists. The disdain in his father's words made his blood boil. "If I find out you had anything to do with this, I swear I will do whatever it takes to stop you." Augusto merely smirked, as if amused by his son's threat. "Good luck, Liam. You're going to need it." Liam left the mansion with his heart pounding. If it wasn't his father, then who else would have a reason to destroy them? The threats aren't stopping, and Liam and Emma realize they are dealing with something much bigger than they imagined. Who is behind the attempts to tear them apart? And how far is this person willing to go? The tension surrounding Liam and Emma only grew stronger. After his meeting with his father, Liam became even more determined to find out who was behind the threats. If it wasn't Augusto Vasconcellos, who else would have a reason to destroy the flower stand and try to drive them apart? That night, sitting at the small table in the apartment he now called home, Liam was glued to his laptop while Emma served 2 cups of tea. She watched him, worried about the tense expression on his face. "You haven't stopped researching since you got back from there." She placed the cup beside him. "Do you really think you can find a clue?" Liam sighed, rubbing his temples. "I don't know, but something tells me this wasn't just an act of vandalism. Someone is behind this, someone who wants to separate us." Emma sat beside him and took his hand. "I know you want to protect us, but I don't want this to consume you. We need to stay calm." Liam looked into her eyes and gave a faint smile. "You're right. I can't accept that we're being attacked and do nothing." She stroked his face. "We'll figure it out together, but without losing our heads, okay?" Liam nodded, and for a moment, he let go of his worries just to feel the warmth of her presence. The next morning, Liam decided to seek out an old friend, Miguel, an investigative journalist who had worked on several reports about shady business, dealings, and corporate disputes. They met at a discreet cafe downtown. Miguel greeted him with a firm handshake. "It's been a while, my friend. What does the rebellious Vasconcellos heir want with me?" Liam gave him a small, humorless smile. "I need your help, Miguel. I'm trying to figure out who might be threatening us." Miguel raised an eyebrow. "Threatening you? What's going on?" Liam explained the attack on the flower stand, the threatening messages, and his suspicions about his father. Miguel listened, attentively, not interrupting once. When Liam finished, Miguel remained thoughtful for a few seconds before speaking. "If it wasn't your father, it could be someone who has an interest in keeping you away from the family business." "But I was already disinherited," Liam argued. "Yes, but your departure from the company might have caused instability. Maybe someone is afraid you'll come back and reclaim your place." Miguel pulled out his phone and began typing. "I'll see what I can find out." Liam felt a spark of hope. "Thanks, Miguel. Let me know if you find anything." "I will, but be careful. If someone is willing to destroy a flower stand to intimidate you, they might go even further." Liam nodded, fully aware of the danger surrounding his new life. Meanwhile, Emma was trying to rebuild her flower stand. With Sophia's help, she managed to recover part of the structure, but the losses had been significant. The day was exhausting, and Emma began to wonder if she should even keep fighting for it. That's when a tall man, with a stern expression, approached. He wore a dark suit and glanced around as if analyzing the place. "Are you Emma?" She straightened up and wiped her hands on her apron. "Yes, that's me. Can I help you?" The man smirked, but there was no kindness in his eyes. "I just came to give you some advice. Some people don't like to see others stepping out of their rightful place." Emma felt a chill down her spine. "Who are you? Who sent you here?" The man stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Just listen, girl. If you want to keep yourself and Liam safe, you'd better stop challenging people with real power." Before Emma could respond, the man turned and disappeared into the crowd. Sophia rushed over. What was that? What did he want? Emma was still in shock. "I think we just got a serious warning." That night, Emma told Liam about the encounter with the mysterious man. He was furious, immediately getting up. "This has gone too far. I won't let them threaten you like this." "Liam, we don't know who we're dealing with. We need to be cautious," Emma reasoned, grabbing his arm. He took a deep breath, trying to contain his anger. "I need to find out who's behind this, and I'm going to do it now." Emma knew trying to stop him would be useless, so instead, she decided to go with him. They returned to the cafe where Miguel had promised to dig for information. The journalist was already waiting, holding a folder full of documents. "I found some things, but you're not going to like it," Miguel said, spreading the papers on the table. Liam's eyes narrowed as he read through the documents. There it was, proof that one of his father's business partners, Marcos Almeida, had hired people to intimidate him and push him out of the way. "Marcos," Liam muttered. "Why would he do this?" Miguel pointed to a section of the report. "Because he's about to close a $1 million deal and is afraid you might interfere somehow." Emma looked at Liam, her heart pounding. "What does this mean?" Liam clenched his fists. "It means we finally know who's behind everything, and I won't let this go unanswered." Now that they know who is behind the threats, Liam and Emma must decide what to do. Confronting Marcos could be more dangerous than they imagined, and every step they take brings them closer to the danger ahead. Liam and Emma knew they were treading on dangerous ground. Now that they knew the name behind the threats, the question was, what would they do with this information? Confronting Marcos Almeida meant going directly against someone powerful, someone who wouldn't hesitate to get his hands dirty to protect his interests. Sitting at the small table in their apartment's living room, Emma stared at Liam, waiting for him to say something. His eyes were fixed on the documents Miguel had given them, his hands clenched into fists. "And now?" she asked softly. Liam let out a heavy sigh, running a hand down his face. "I don't know. If we take this to the police, we need solid evidence, and right now we only have suspicions. If we go after him directly, we could put ourselves in even greater danger." Emma gripped his hand firmly. "We can't let him control us through fear." Liam looked at her and nodded. "You're right, but we need to be smart about this." The next morning, they decided to meet with Miguel again. The journalist was already waiting at the cafe, this time with an even more serious expression than before. "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" he asked, taking a sip of his coffee. "We don't have a choice," Liam replied. "This man tried to intimidate us. Who's to say he won't do something even worse?" Miguel nodded. "I did some deeper digging. Marcos Almeida isn't just an aggressive investor. He has shady connections, businesses that never make the headlines but move a lot of money. If you confront him, you need to be prepared." Emma felt a chill run down her spine. Prepared how? Miguel pulled an envelope from his folder and slid it across the table to Liam. "These are financial records of suspicious transactions made by Marcos over the past few years. If we can gather more evidence, we might be able to put pressure on him without having to go straight to the police." Liam opened the envelope and examined the documents. Every number, every transaction seemed to scream corruption. But he knew suspicion alone wasn't enough. They needed something stronger. "Thank you, Miguel. This is a good start." The journalist nodded. "If you need more information, let me know. But be careful. Marcos doesn't play fair." In the following days, Liam and Emma began investigating discreetly. With each new discovery, it became clearer just how deep Marcos's involvement in illegal dealings ran. But then, something unexpected happened. One rainy afternoon, while Emma was closing up the flower stand, a black car pulled up beside the plaza. Two men stepped out and walked toward her. "Emma, right?" one of them said, a tall man with graying hair and a cold stare. Emma swallowed hard but kept her composure. "Who are you?" The man smirked. "Just messengers. Marcos Almeida wants to talk to you and Liam. I believe it's in your best interest to accept the invitation." "And if we refuse?" Emma challenged. The man chuckled softly. "That wouldn't be a good idea." Emma's heart pounded, but she knew running wasn't an option. She had to warn Liam. When she told him what happened, Liam was furious. "He's trying to intimidate us, but if he's calling for a meeting, it means he has his own fears too." "Do you think we should go?" Emma asked, worried. Liam thought for a moment before answering. "Yes, but we need to be prepared." The next day they were taken to a high-end restaurant. one of Marcos's discreet establishments. The man was already waiting at a private table, a glass of whiskey in his hand, and a cold smile on his face. "Ah, the couple of the hour," he said, looking at them as if they were mere pawns on his chessboard. "We finally meet." Liam remained calm. "You've made threats, destroyed Emma's flower stand, and tried to intimidate us. What's your next move, Marcos?" Marcos smiled and leaned forward. "Ah, Liam, you've always been smart, so you know that business is business. It's nothing personal." "It feels pretty personal to us," Emma shot back, crossing her arms. Marcos let out a low chuckle. "That's exactly why I'm here. I want to offer you a deal." Liam exchanged a glance with Emma before responding. "What kind of deal?" Marcos took a sip of his whiskey before continuing. "You walk away from your family's business for good and stop digging where you shouldn't. In return, I guarantee that no further problems will come your way. You, too, can live your little love story without any interference." Liam felt a bitter taste in his mouth. "And if I refuse?" Marcos smiled again, but this time there was something dark in his gaze. "Then, accidents happen, Liam, and I wouldn't want your lovely Emma to be caught in one of them." Liam's blood boiled, but he knew that losing control now wouldn't solve anything. He had to think. He had to be strategic. "I'll consider your offer," he finally said. Marcos nodded, satisfied. "Good. But don't take too long to decide. Patience has never been my strong suit." They got up and left the restaurant, feeling the weight of the danger pressing down on them. When they arrived back at the apartment, Emma finally let out everything she had been holding in. "Liam, this is getting too dangerous. I don't want anything to happen to you." He held her by the shoulders and looked deep into her eyes. "I promise you, nothing will happen. But we can't just accept this." "Then what do we do?" she asked, her voice filled with worry. Liam took a deep breath. "We find a way to take Marcos down before he even sees it coming." Emma nodded, even though she knew they were about to step into a dangerous game where any mistake could be fatal. With Marcos's ultimatum, Liam and Emma need to make a quick decision. But are they truly prepared for what's coming next? The walls were closing in on Marcos Almeida. The police investigation was underway, and the media was already questioning his suspicious activities. But Liam and Emma knew Marcos wasn't the type to accept defeat easily. That night, while they were in their small apartment, a noise outside caught Liam's attention. He stood up quickly and looked out the window. A black car was parked across the street, its headlights off, but with the silhouette of someone inside. "He's watching us," Liam murmured. Emma stepped closer and felt a chill run down her spine as she spotted the vehicle. "We need to act before he does," she said, determined. Liam grabbed his phone and called Miguel. "We need to speed this up. Marcos is circling us. Have you found anything else?" Miguel's voice was tense on the other end. "Yes, I found out Marcos is planning to flee the country before the police gather enough evidence to arrest him. But here's the thing. He's trying to erase his tracks, and that means you two might be in real danger." Liam gripped the phone tightly. "We can't let him escape. Can you help us find out where he is now?" "Let me make some calls. I'll let you know as soon as I have something," Miguel replied. Liam hung up and looked at Emma. "We need to be ready for anything." The next morning, Miguel called back with crucial information. "Marcos is hiding out in a house on the outskirts of the city. Looks like he's waiting for the right moment to leave the country. But we have to move fast. If he disappears, we may never catch him." Liam and Emma didn't hesitate. They decided they had to go there and gather enough evidence to ensure he wouldn't get away unpunished. Before leaving, Liam grabbed a small voice recorder and slipped it into his coat pocket. "If we can get a confession, this could be the final piece to put him behind bars." Emma took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. "Let's end this once and for all." The drive to Marcos's hideout was tense. The location was remote, surrounded by tall trees and an imposing iron gate. They parked the car at a safe distance and approached on foot. As they got closer, they spotted 2 armed guards at the entrance. Liam pulled Emma behind a tree. "We can't just walk in. We need a plan." Emma thought for a moment and then had an idea. "What if we create a distraction?" Liam frowned. "How?" She pointed to a nearby shed where a power generator was running. "If we cut the power, it might cause enough confusion for us to slip inside." Liam smiled. Good thinking. Moving stealthily, they crept up to the generator. With a firm pull, Liam cut the house's power supply. The lights went out instantly, and the guards started moving around, trying to figure out what had happened. Taking advantage of the chaos, Liam and Emma slipped in through the side of the house. They made their way down a dark hallway until they came across a slightly open door. Inside, Marcos was on the phone. "You need to get me out of here today. I don't care how much it costs." His voice was filled with rage and desperation. Liam pulled out the recorder and pressed the record button. "I've already erased the most important evidence, but there are still people digging where they shouldn't. If we have to get rid of them, so be it." Emma swallowed hard at those words. Marcos was willing to do anything. Liam exchanged a look with her, then, with determination, pushed the door open, revealing their presence. Marcos turned around, startled, but his surprise quickly turned into fury. "What the hell are you doing here?" Liam held up his phone. "Recording your confession." Marcos froze for a moment, then forced a cynical smile. "You think that's going to stop me? You have no idea who you're dealing with." "Actually, we know exactly who we're dealing with," Emma shot back. "And now, so will the police." Marcos took a step toward Liam, but before he could do anything, the sound of sirens filled the air. The guards outside ran, trying to figure out what was happening. Miguel, waiting outside, had called the police as soon as Liam and Emma had gone in. Within seconds, officers stormed the house, handcuffing Marcos before he could react. Liam and Emma stepped back as the police took control of the situation. "Marcos Almeida, you are under arrest for financial crimes and conspiracy to commit crimes against civilians," an officer announced. Marcos struggled, but he knew it was over. "You'll regret this," he shouted as they took him away. Emma looked at Liam, finally feeling a sense of relief wash over her. "We did it," she whispered. Liam pulled her into a tight embrace. "Yeah, we did." In the days that followed, Marcos's arrest became front-page news. The evidence Liam and Emma had gathered was crucial in ensuring his conviction. Miguel received recognition for his investigative work, and at last, the shadow of Marcos disappeared from their lives. Back at the flower stand, Emma arranged a bouquet when Liam approached her. "I thought maybe we could celebrate in a special way." He held out a small box. Emma opened it, revealing a simple yet beautiful ring. "Liam," she murmured, tears welling up in her eyes. He got down on one knee, holding her hand. "After everything we've been through, I want you to know that every choice I made was because I love you. Will you marry me?" Emma smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek before she answered. "Yes, 1,000 times, yes." They kissed under the sunny sky, finally free to live their story without fear.